The sky was dark with smoke. The battlefield was covered in dust, broken machines, and the bodies of fallen soldiers. Kalara, an elite alien warrior, stood tall in the middle of it all. Her green armor glowed under the dirty clouds. Her silver hair flowed in the wind. She looked strong, confident, and fearless. But something felt wrong. Her team moved ahead, scanning the rocks and dry land with their weapons raised. Kalara's sharp eyes searched the area. She could feel it. Danger was near. The silence was too heavy. The wind carried no sound of birds, no sound of machines, only silence. "We are being watched," she said quietly to her second in command. Before he could reply, the ground shook. Boom. A huge explosion tore through the rocks ahead. Flames rose high into the sky. Kalara was thrown back. Dust filled her lungs. She coughed and tried to stand, but her legs felt heavy. Then the second blast came closer. Screams echoed through the air as her team was hit by plasma fire. Enemy drones flew overhead, firing without mercy. One by one, her soldiers fell. She tried to crawl toward them, but another shockwave slammed into her. Crack, she screamed. Her legs were crushed beneath a broken armored vehicle. The pain was blinding. She gasped, reaching for her blaster, but it was gone. Her armor was broken. Her legs bleeding, broken, useless. "Retreat!" shouted one of her remaining soldiers. Kalara reached out. "Don't leave me." But they didn't stop. One by one, they ran. Her own people, her squad, the ones she had trained and protected. They looked at her and turned away. She was left behind. The dust settled slowly. The battle moved far away. The only sounds now were the crackling of fire and the soft wind blowing through the valley. Kalara lay in the dirt, unable to move, her hands clawing at the ground. Her breathing was heavy. Her pride was broken. She closed her eyes. This is how it ends. But then, footsteps. Heavy, careful footsteps. She opened her eyes. A shadow approached through the smoke. Not an alien, not one of her kind. It was a human, a soldier in dark armor, with glowing blue stripes on his chest. His helmet was off, showing a tired face with rough skin, a short beard, and sharp blue eyes. He looked at her like she was someone, not a thing. "Not trash," she bared her teeth. "What are you looking at, human?" The man didn't speak. He knelt beside her. Carefully, he pulled out a small scanner and waved it over her legs. The screen beeped red. Bad damage. Bone and muscle crushed. Internal bleeding. She tried to push him away. "Leave me. I don't need help from your kind." Still he didn't leave. "My name's Dean," he said calmly. "Sergeant Dean Carter. You're lucky I found you before the scavengers did." "I'm not lucky," she growled. Dean smiled softly. "You will be." He pulled out a field medkit and began cleaning her wounds. She screamed in pain but didn't stop him. She didn't understand. Why would a human soldier help her? People were fighting humans in this sector. They were enemies. And yet here he was. "You're wasting your time," she said, coughing. "I'm done." Dean shook his head, applying a biopatch to her torn skin. "You're not done. Not on my watch." Kalara looked at him closely. His hands were shaking, his armor damaged, his eyes tired, but his heart was steady. He had a calm strength in him, a kind she hadn't seen before. He looked up at the burning hills. "We need to get out of here before more of them show up." "You can go," she said coldly. "I'll slow you down." He paused. Then, slowly he stood. "You're not slowing me down. You're giving me a reason to keep going." Before she could respond, he bent down and carefully lifted her into his arms. She gasped from the pain. Her pride screamed louder than her body. She hated being carried, hated being weak, but for the first time since the ambush, she didn't feel alone. As he walked through the smoke, carrying the broken alien warrior, her blood dripping onto his chest plate. The wind whispered through the rocks. And deep inside, Kelara whispered too. Why, you? He didn't answer. He just kept walking. Asterisk. Kelara's mind drifted in and out of darkness. Pain pulsed through her body like slow fire. Every step the human took sent sharp jolts up her spine. But she didn't scream anymore. Her pride wouldn't allow it. Sergeant Dean Carter held her gently but firmly in his arms. His steps were slow, steady, careful. The battlefield behind them had gone quiet, but not safe. Smoke covered the land like a dirty blanket. The only light came from fires in the distance and the occasional flicker of his suit's energy cells. His armor looked heavy, scratched, burned. Yet he didn't stop. Kelara opened her eyes and stared at his face. Dirt streaked across his cheeks. Sweat ran down his forehead. His lips were tight, focused. She hated the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with concern. Real concern. Put me down, she whispered. Dean glanced at her. If I do, you'll die. Better than being carried like a child, she spat. He said nothing. Just kept walking. Kelara's claws scraped against his chest plate. Why? Are you helping me? I'm not human. I'm not your ally. My kind has killed yours. Dean finally stopped. He set her down carefully against a large rock, then knelt beside her. You're not my enemy, he said. You're just someone who was left behind. She turned her face away. You don't understand. My people don't come back for the weak. If you stay, they'll come for you too. Then let them come, he said calmly. I've fought worse. She studied him for a long moment. You're strange. Dean gave a faint smile. I get that a lot. He pulled out a nutrient pack and pressed it into her hand. Kelara looked at it with confusion. You expect me to eat this human paste? She said. You want to live or complain? He asked, raising an eyebrow. She glared. Then, slowly she opened the packet and drank. It tasted awful. He handed her a cloth. She wiped her blood-streaked face and noticed his arm shaking. You're injured, she said. Just bruised, Dean replied. She narrowed her eyes. You're lying, he shrugged. It's a habit. They stayed silent for a few minutes. Wind moved through the broken trees above them. Somewhere far away, a starfighter roared across the sky. Why didn't you leave me? She asked finally. Dean didn't look at her when he answered. Because I saw my own squad leave someone behind once, he said. A guy named Harris. We all thought he was dead, but he wasn't, and we didn't go back. Kelara tilted her head. And you still feel guilty? Dean nodded. Every single day. She looked at the ground. Her sharp eyes noticed the blood still flowing from her leg stumps. You know I might die anyway, she said softly. I know, Dean replied. But not alone. Kelara swallowed hard. Something about those words struck her deep. She had lived by the sword her whole life. She was taught to be strong or be nothing. Now she was broken. And yet, not abandoned. Your people won't like this, she said, looking up at him. They don't have to, he replied. I'm not doing this for them. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed from behind the ridge. Dean's head snapped up. Kelara froze. More footsteps fast. Heavy, organized. Dean grabbed his blaster and stood, shielding her with his body. Are those your people? He asked. Kelara squinted. Her night vision caught shapes moving. Yes, but they're not here to help. Dean's hand tightened on his weapon. She looked up at him, voice low and broken. If they see you with me, they'll shoot you. No questions. They might shoot me too. I'm not useful anymore. Dean looked back down at her. I guess we'll find out what kind of people they really are. Kelara met his eyes. And for the first time, she hoped they wouldn't come at all. Kelara had always believed she would die on a battlefield, blade in hand, enemies at her feet, honor earned. But now she was broken, half-conscious, and cradled in the arms of a human soldier. Sergeant Dean Carter moved like a shadow through the burned valley, Kaylara wrapped tightly in a survival cloak against his chest. Her head rested against him, but her eyes stayed open, sharp, alert. "We're moving deeper into enemy lines," she muttered weakly. "I noticed." Dean replied, panting slightly as he adjusted his grip on her weight. "You'll get us both killed, not if I move fast and you stay quiet." Kaylara narrowed her eyes. "You're insane." Dean didn't argue. Every step took them farther from safety and closer to a place where no human or alien dared go, the wastes of Threxen. Crag, once a colony, now a dead zone full of old machines, unstable plasma mines, and ghost signals. Even the air shimmered strangely there, like it didn't want to be breathed. Kaylara winced as her legs bumped against Dean's armor. "I can guide us. I know this place." "Then start guiding, soldier," Dean said. Despite the pain, her voice remained steady. "Turn left at the broken spire. You'll see a drop into the ravine. Go there." They moved under dead trees shaped like claws. Machines from long-forgotten battles lay half-buried in dust. Broken alien banners hung from bent poles. The silence was thick, almost like the land was holding its breath. Suddenly, Kaylara tapped his chest. "Stop." Dean froze. His eyes scanned. "The area, there," she whispered. "Trip mine, ancient design. Still active." He looked where she pointed, a faint shimmer near a rock, almost invisible to the naked eye. "You just saved our lives," he said. Kaylara gave a small, tired smile. "We're even now." Dean carefully stepped over it and continued. Minutes felt like hours. His muscles ached, but he never complained. Kaylara studied him, watching every drop of sweat, every flinch of pain he tried to hide. "Why do you care?" she finally asked. "You don't even know my name. You can tell me when we get somewhere safe." "That place doesn't exist for me anymore," she said coldly. Dean stopped walking. Gently, he laid her down behind a collapsed structure. He crouched beside her. "You were a soldier once, right?" "I still am," she hissed. "Then act like it. Survive first. Doubt later." Kaylara blinked at him. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not as a weapon, but as a person. A fellow fighter. She coughed and finally said, "Kaylara, that's my name." Dean nodded. "Good, I'm tired of calling you Hey." They shared a brief, quiet moment, then movement in the distance. Dean pulled out a small drone and launched it into the air. Its blue lights blinked once and disappeared into the sky. "Scanning," he muttered. Kaylara tried to lift her head. "What is it?" Dean tapped the screen. "Bad news. 2 enemy squads sweeping this sector. They're looking for survivors." "Not to rescue," Kaylara said. "To clean up." Dean nodded grimly. "Then we better stay invisible." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small camo field, a portable device that bent light around them. It wouldn't hold up under full scan, but it would hide them from sight. He set it up and pressed a finger to his lips. They waited. Seconds passed, then minutes. Footsteps crunched nearby, slow, armored, and many. Voices in a guttural alien tongue echoed off the ruins. Kaylara knew those voices. They were her people. "They're checking for bodies," she whispered. "If they find us." Dean didn't answer. His hand hovered near his rifle, but his finger never twitched. A shadow fell over the camouflage field. Someone was standing just inches away from them. Kaylara held her breath. Her claws tightened. She looked at Dean. His eyes met hers. No fear, just readiness. The shadow turned, then walked away. They waited until the sound faded. Dean exhaled. Kaylara collapsed back into his arms, whispering, "We're ghosts now." Dean smirked. "Let's stay that way." She stared at him. "You're not like the others." "And you're not as heartless as you pretend," he replied. They both knew the truth, somewhere deep in this cursed war zone. They had crossed a line. They were no longer enemies. They were survivors. Together. The sun had started to fade, turning the sky a deep purple as night crept across the war-torn wasteland. Dean's legs were giving out, but he didn't stop. Not until they reached the cave Kalara had whispered about an hour ago, a hidden place from long ago, forgotten by both humans and aliens. The entrance was narrow, covered by fallen branches and cracked stone. It was easy to miss unless you knew exactly where to look. Kalara did. "Behind that ridge," she murmured. Weak from blood loss, Dean kicked away the rocks, revealing a small dark tunnel. Without a word, he ducked inside, carefully carrying her over his shoulder. Inside, the air was cool and dry. The walls shimmered with faint green crystals. Dean laid her down on a flat rock and immediately began checking her wound. The silence wrapped around them like a blanket. Kalara stared at the cave ceiling. "This place used to be a command post during the old wars. Before I was even born." "You remember it well," Dean said, opening a small medical pod. "My mother told me stories about it," she replied softly. "Back when our people still had honor." Dean raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He began removing what was left of the metal shards around her leg stumps. Her breathing hitched from pain, but she didn't cry. "Not once. I need to cauterize these," he said. "Or you'll get worse." "Do it," she said. "I've been through worse." When he activated the heated tool, her claws dug into the ground. Her body tensed, her jaw clenched, but she stayed silent. Once done, Dean wiped the sweat from her forehead. "That should hold." Kalara exhaled, then looked at him, truly looked. "You're risking everything for me." "Why?" Dean sat down beside her, pulling off his helmet and rubbing his tired eyes. "I already told you, I won't leave someone behind again. Not even if they're an alien warrior with sharp claws and a bad attitude." A faint smile flickered across her face. "You're not like other humans. And you're not like the aliens we're told to shoot on sight." She went quiet for a moment, staring at her hands. "I wasn't always a soldier," she said. Dean turned to her, surprised. "I was an artist," she continued. "Sculpture, stone carving. I joined the military because my brother died in a raid. After that, I stopped carving." Dean nodded slowly. "I used to write music, guitar mostly. But war kills more than just people. It kills who we used to be." Kalara's expression softened. "Strange, isn't it? We're on opposite sides of a war, hiding in a dead cave, talking about art and music." Dean chuckled. "Maybe the galaxy isn't as divided as our leaders want it to be." Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from outside the cave. Dean stood instantly, weapon raised. Kalara reached for her blaster, then remembered. She didn't have one anymore. "Stay down," he whispered. He moved to the cave entrance, slow and silent. He peeked through a crack in the rock. Outside, a large, four-legged scavenger beast was sniffing near the entrance. Its long claws scratched the stone, and its mouth drooled acid. Kalara tensed. "It smells blood." Dean looked back at her. "I'll distract it. You stay hidden." "No," she said quickly. "You saved me. Let me do something for once." She reached into Dean's pack and pulled out a small flash grenade. Dean blinked. "You sure? I may not walk anymore," she said. "But I'm not helpless." With practiced aim, she tossed the grenade toward the entrance. It rolled right beneath the beast's feet. Boom! A flash of white light filled the outside. The creature screamed and ran into the distance, blinded and furious. Dean stared at her in surprise. "Nice throw." Kalara leaned back against the wall. "Told you. I'm still a soldier." Dean came back and sat beside her. They both listened to the silence returning around them. "I never thanked you," she said after a long pause. "You don't have to," he replied. I want to, she said. Because if I ever walk again, I want to remember who helped me when no one else did. Dean looked at her and smiled. Then walk again, he said. And never forget. The cave had grown colder overnight. The air hung heavy with silence, broken only by Kalara's slow breaths and the faint hum of Dean's portable field generator. It projected weak warmth, barely enough to keep her stable. Dean sat just a few steps away, sharpening a small blade against a broken stone. His eyes remained alert, scanning the shadows. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. They were too deep in enemy territory. Kalara stirred and looked at him. "You're still awake?" "Didn't want to miss anything," he said. "You okay?" She gave a slow nod. "Better than I expected. Alive." "And angry," Dean smirked. "Angry at me or at fate?" "Both," she whispered. "And myself." Before he could ask, Kalara's expression changed. Her sharp ears twitched. She sat up straighter. "What is it?" Dean asked. She raised a clawed hand. "Voices." Dean froze. He reached for his helmet, tapped into his scanner, and zoomed in on the cliffside outside the cave. Heat signatures, 3 of them. He recognized the shapes. Alien armor. "Her people. They're here," he whispered. Kalara's eyes narrowed. "They shouldn't be." Dean lowered his visor. "Rescue team?" "No," she said flatly. "They're not here to save me. They're here to silence me." Dean's gut twisted. "You sure?" She nodded slowly. "Our code is strict. If a warrior is left behind and severely wounded, especially disabled, they're seen as compromised. If they found out I survived, I'd be erased." Quietly. Dean's voice turned cold. "So now they want to clean up their mistake." Kalara's claws dug into the stone floor. "They don't want weakness back in the ranks." He pulled back from the entrance and looked her in the eyes. "Then we fight." "You're outnumbered," she warned. "I was born outnumbered." Outside, the soldiers grew closer. Dean set up a signal disruptor. "They won't detect your life signs now." Kalara shook her head. "They don't need scans. They'll find me by smell, by instinct. They know I survived." "Then we move now." She grabbed his wrist. "I can't run." Dean paused. "Then I stay." Her hand trembled. "Don't. You'll die." He leaned closer, his voice calm. "I'd rather die standing for you than live knowing I left you behind." Kalara's eyes burned with emotion. Outside voices. Harsh, cold. They were speaking in her native tongue. "She must be here," one said. "Her blood trail ends here." "She's disgraced," another growled. "We finish it, clean and quiet." Dean crouched, weapon ready. Kalara looked down at her legs, wrapped in makeshift bandages. Then she looked at her blaster out of charge. She breathed deeply, then said, "If I'm going to die, I'll do it standing." Using her arms, she dragged herself to the cave wall. Dean tried to stop her. "Wait, don't," she gritted her teeth and pulled herself upright against the wall. "I need you to help me aim," she said. "One shot, that's all I've got." Dean handed her his spare blaster. Outside, footsteps echoed. Then silence. Dean whispered, "They're right outside." Kalara pressed her back against the wall. The first soldier stepped inside the cave. Dean raised his weapon. "That's far enough." The alien soldier turned and smirked. "A human? Of course. Our scout said someone strange was carrying her." "She's under my protection," Dean said, his voice sharp. The soldier raised his weapon. "Then you'll die with her." Kalara didn't wait. She fired. One shot. Right into the enemy's neck joint. He dropped. Dean opened fire at the second. Kalara, though weak, kept firing. The third soldier tried to rush, but Dean rolled forward and slammed into him, knocking the weapon aside. It was brutal. Close fast, but then silence again. 3 bodies on the floor. Kelara leaned against the wall, panting hard. Dean looked at her. You okay? She gave a tired smile. They trained me for war. But they never trained me for survival. He walked over and knelt beside her. You just rewrote their code, he said that. She chuckled weakly. Maybe there's hope for me after all. He touched her hand gently. There's more than hope, he said. There's a future. And in the cold, broken cave where enemies came to erase her, Kelara chose for the first time not to run from who she was, but to fight for who she could still become. Asterisk. The bodies of the enemy soldiers lay still at the mouth of the cave. The fire in Kelara's chest refused to calm. Her hands trembled as she dropped the empty blaster. Her legs, still useless, throbbed with dull pain, but her heart pounded like a drum. Dean sat beside her, breathing heavily, a bleeding cut running down the side of his temple. They had won for now, but they both knew it wasn't over. Dean's helmet buzzed. The long-range scanner picked up more movement. 3 more signals. 4, 5. Reinforcements, he whispered. Kelara's sharp eyes looked at the scanner. Too many. They must have sent a full sweep squad. Dean nodded grimly. They'll surround the cave. Kelara looked at him with quiet resolve. You need to go, Dean scoffed. Not this again. You stayed. You fought for me. Now you need to leave before they kill you. He knelt beside her. Kelara, I didn't carry you across that cursed desert just to run now. Her voice softened. You've done enough. Dean raised her chin gently. I haven't done what matters most. She blinked. What's that? He stood. Making sure you live. Kelara's jaw clenched. If you die, it means nothing. No, Dean said firmly. It means something to me. He placed his rifle in her lap. You remember how to use this? She nodded silently. Dean strapped on his boo gear. He pulled out 2 thermal grenades and a motion beacon. What are you doing? She asked. Buying time. She reached out, grabbing his wrist. You won't survive. His eyes met hers. If I don't make it. Remember, you weren't left behind. Not by me. Kelara's claws held him tighter. You stupid, stubborn human, Dean smiled. I've been called worse. He turned and walked toward the cave entrance. Before leaving, he looked back one last time. Stay low. Aim steady. If they reach you, make it count. Then he vanished into the light outside. Kelara was alone again. The rifle in her lap was heavy, but not just in weight. It carried the burden of someone who believed in her. Someone who didn't care that she was alien, broken, or abandoned. Someone who chose her over safety. Outside, the ground shook. Explosions echoed. Plasma fire lit up the ridge. Dean had triggered the beacon. The enemies were closing in on him, drawn by the false heat signatures it created. Kelara crawled forward, dragging herself to the cave's edge. She watched through the shadows. Dean ran along the ravine edge, drawing enemy fire. He tossed a grenade into a cluster of armored figures. The shockwave lit the sky. 2 soldiers went flying, but others kept coming. One shot hit his shoulder. He stumbled. Another struck his side. Kelara gasped. No. Still Dean stood, firing back, one arm nearly useless, blood pouring down his side. She wanted to scream, to run, to fly to him, but she could only watch. Then he turned his head slightly, as if sensing her eyes on him. He smiled. Pressed the second grenade to his chest. Kelara's heart stopped. No, Dean. Don't. But instead of detonating, it clicked and released a massive smoke shield. Dean collapsed behind it. The enemies hesitated. Confused, Kelara saw her chance. She pulled herself to the mounted railgun Dean had left on the cave wall. With slow, burning strength, she aimed. The first shot tore through the enemy's front line. The second shattered a drone. Her aim was pure. Fire. Every round she fired screamed a message. He is not alone. I am not weak. I will protect him now. Then, Silence. The battlefield went quiet. Kelara dropped the rifle. Smoke drifted across the broken ground. Suddenly, a figure emerged. Stumbling. Wounded. Bleeding. But alive. Dean. He fell into the cave entrance. Gasping, his face cut, his armor scorched, Kelara dragged herself over and caught him before he fell. "You idiot," she whispered, choking back tears. "You could have died." He looked at her through one swollen eye. "But I didn't," he said, "because you covered me." They sat there in silence, holding each other. Two broken warriors, alien and human, not enemies, not soldiers, just people who refused to give up. Kelara whispered, "We live." "Together," Dean nodded, his voice hoarse. "Together." Bright lights, beeping machines, warm air. Kelara opened, her eyes slowly. She was not in the cave. She was not in the battlefield. She was somewhere safe. A white ceiling stretched above her. The smell of clean metal, fresh sheets, and sterilized. Tools filled the room. She blinked again and turned her head. Human tech. Medical center. Not alien. Earth. A soft chime sounded, and a nurse stepped in, an older human woman with kind eyes. She smiled when she saw Kelara awake. "You're finally back," she said gently. Kelara opened her mouth, voice dry. "Where?" "Earth. Military Rehabilitation Facility, North Quadrant. You've been in recovery for 2 weeks." Kelara's hands clenched the sheets. 2 weeks. The door opened. And he walked in. Dean cleaned up, arm in a sling. Bandages on his cheek. Exhausted, but alive. He smiled when he saw her. Kelara's lips twitched. "You again." "I told you," he said, walking closer. "Not leaving you behind." She looked down slowly. And froze. Her legs, they were there, but different. Not flesh, not bone. Sleek, silver cybernetic limbs shaped like original legs, but smoother, stronger. They hummed softly with energy. Her hand hovered over one thigh. I don't understand." Dean sat beside her. "We brought you in. They said they could rebuild you, not as a weapon. As a person. As a soldier, if you want to be." "Why?" she whispered. "I'm not even human." Dean looked at her firmly. "You're not, but you matter. You proved that." She felt tears burn behind her eyes. "My own people left me. Yours gave me this." Dean shrugged. "Some of us still believe in second chances." A long silence passed between them. Then Kelara spoke. "Can I walk?" Dean stood up and offered his hand. "Let's find out." With trembling fingers, she took his hand. He helped her swing her legs over the side of the bed. Her new feet touched the floor. Cold, solid. She pushed up. Her legs wobbled. Dean didn't let go. "Easy." She took one step, then another, wobbly, imperfect. But hers, "I'm walking," she whispered. "I'm really walking." Dean nodded. "Told you, not done yet." Kelara turned to him, pride flickering in her eyes. "I want to fight again. Not just for myself. For people like me, those discarded, left behind." He smiled. "There's a place for you. A program. Mixed squads. Aliens. Humans. Peacekeepers. You'd be perfect." "Would I be the first of my kind?" she asked. "You'd be the reason there's a second," Dean replied. She laughed, soft and broken, but real. "You're a strange man." "Dean Carter." He looked at her seriously. "And you're the bravest person I've ever met." Her laughter faded. She looked down at her hands, then at her legs, then back at him. "Thank you," Dean nodded. "Thank you for surviving." A week later, Kelara stood in a new uniform, black and silver, the emblem of unity on her chest. Her new legs shone beneath her coat. Dean stood beside her, proud. Other recruits watched her with curious eyes. An alien warrior who refused to die. A human who carried her when no one else would. And now, a future neither of them had planned, but both had chosen, together.